Helen Armstrong had never set foot in a courtroom. At 68, retired and widowed, her world revolved around gardening, Sunday sermons, and her only son, Daniel. He was the light she clung to after losing her husband to cancer. Daniel was a quiet, thoughtful man, worked at the post office, cared for stray animals, and called his mom every night without fail. So when Helen answered the door to find police officers standing on her porch, guns drawn, shouting Daniel's name, her heart almost stopped. They said he'd been accused of assaulting a woman he barely knew, said there was DNA evidence, said she shouldn't resist. Helen stood frozen as they pushed past her, handcuffed her son, and dragged him away. She kept asking, "What's going on?" But no one answered. The trial 3. Months later, Helen sat in a stiff wooden bench in a county courtroom, clutching a worn Bible like a shield. Daniel stood beside a public defender who looked too young to shave. Across the room, the prosecution painted Daniel as a predator, showing blurry security footage from a parking garage and a lab report claiming a partial DNA match. But the footage was grainy. The man in the video was taller than Daniel. The DNA? Inconclusive, but the prosecutor hammered it in with confidence, and the jury looked tired, a room full of people who just wanted to go home. The defense presented alibis, receipts, character witnesses. Helen even took the stand, voice trembling, testifying that her son had never even raised his voice to a woman. But none of it mattered. The verdict, guilty. 2 syllables that shattered everything. Helen didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at the judge, wondering how a man who claimed to stand for justice could look so casual while ruining a life. Daniel was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Helen visited every week, never missed. She brought homemade cookies, crosswords, clean socks. She smiled for Daniel, but inside she was breaking. She sold her car to pay for a private investigator. She skipped her medication to afford appeal filings. Everyone told her to let it go, to trust the system. But how do you trust a system that treats your child like disposable evidence? The truth emerges. 18 months into Daniel's sentence, Helen received a call. A woman had come forward, a co-worker of the original accuser, claiming she overheard the woman confess. "I made it up to get revenge. He ghosted me after 2 dates." Helen's hands shook as she handed the phone to Daniel's lawyer. Within weeks, the case was reopened. Forensic analysts reviewed the original DNA. Turns out, the lab had cross-contaminated samples. Daniel walked out of prison 602 days after his wrongful conviction, thin and quiet, but not broken. The aftermath. They sued the state. They won a small settlement. But how do you put a price on stolen years? Helen didn't want revenge. She wanted to make sure no other mother would sit in that courtroom, listening to lies dressed as truth. She began speaking out at churches, libraries, schools, telling their story. People listened. Moral in America, we say, innocent until proven guilty. But sometimes the courtroom forgets. And when that happens, it's not just the accused who suffers. It's every family, every mother, every silent voice in the gallery. Justice isn't a system. It's a fight.